What's a common way to make your BMW look better? Wheel spacers. Easy to throw on, really just enhances the look. You can see on these things, these wheels are just sucked in from the factory. A lot of them are for whatever extra clearance from debris, snow chains, I don't know all the reasons, but I know that I love to make a car look better in a simple, effective way to space these things out, get them flush with the body line, and we finally have our 5x112 wheel spacers in stock, various sizes, 5 mil, 12 mil, 15, 18, 20, and we're gonna run through a few different options on both this G01 and this G82 to see what fitment we like. Everyone's personal preference may be different, so we're gonna run through a few of the different options to see what you like, because maybe that doesn't match ours. I got a feeling I know approximately where we're gonna land on these, but let's dig in, get them on the car, check out the process. To get started, to make sure that we have everything exactly the same throughout this test, as we're gonna try all the different spacer sizes, we have marked where the cameras are on the floor so that they're in the identical spot, and we're gonna mark where this car needs to be, because what we're gonna wanna do is set the car down after we put the spacers on, and then roll it back and forth to make sure it settles, and then get accurate representation of how they look on the car. So getting this marked, gonna get myself a jack, an impact, and start with some spacers. Starting off with 5 mil spacers. I know this thing's gonna want more than 5 mil spacers, but we're gonna go ahead and take a peek at how it looks on there. So the 5 mil is gonna go over that little hub-centric snout. The 5 mils are not hub-centric. All of our other spacers are. We'll get into that in a little bit, but also gonna use this wheel mounting pin tool from PowerFlex, which if you don't have studs on your car, makes life a lot easier to change wheels and tires with bolts. And if you don't have studs, we also have a range of wheel bolts, and these spacers pre-packaged with the appropriate wheel bolt sizes for the extended bolts to make up that extra width that you're accounting for. Let's see how it looks. All right, gonna roll the car back and forth just a little bit, get them to settle. All right, definitely an improvement, but I think we still got a little ways to go. So we're gonna throw the 12s on next, front and rear, and then we'll start evaluating. Now, as it comes out a little bit, looks like the rear may actually not want quite as much spacer as the front, but we'll play with that, see where we land. Also putting that pin tool in for removing the wheels just to help keep that carbon ceramic rotor protected, because you bang those things up, a little expensive to replace. So our spacers are made to be lightweight. They have increased cutouts here than some other spacers. We had some that were, this is kind of a standard style that you might see where they're just kind of drilled out holes, and that adds weight. We've got some weight reduction out of these. Also have this lip on the back that if you leave your spacers and wheels in your car for tens of thousands of miles, sometimes road grime and whatnot, makes these things kind of fuse to the back. So this allows you to get a screwdriver or something in there, pry it off, and make that process a lot simpler. People are pretty often concerned with spacers. We get the question a lot, like, well, are spacers safe? Spacers are safe. You might be shocked to learn that BMW themselves on the M2 CS Racing that they build from the factory comes with a 41 millimeter spacer. That's a lot thicker than this. One of the pieces that's really important about BMW spacers is that BMW wheels are hub-centric, not lug-centric, which means that this snout right here needs to be specifically made to the diameter to mate up to the wheel so that it centers the wheel onto the hub. Otherwise you get nasty vibrations and whatnot, which can cause other problems and just be annoying. A piece of that though that is a little bit tricky is that not all hub-centric spacers are created equal. There's a chamfer here to make sure there's enough material to meet the hub-centric snout. And we've got a whole wheel spacer paper test video on this that goes into further detail on that. But at the core, you wanna make sure that this spacer sits behind this wheel and doesn't rock inside of that wheel at all. You take a piece of paper, put it in here, and if that piece of paper doesn't come out and it's captured, you're good. If it's loose, not good. I'm gonna go find a piece of paper and do that test right now. All right, got my paper. Look at that, I'm grabbing it. These are two machine surfaces that need to mate together perfectly. And when that chamfer is different than this chamfer on the back of the wheel, causes some fitment issues and your wheel never sits perfectly flush on the hub and you have some issues. I will note, you'll see the 5mm spacers don't have that hub-centric snout, too narrow to have that material there. But there is enough material on the snout, take that off, on the snout, the stock factory hub, to go into the wheel even with the 5mm spacer. So, okay with that. I wouldn't go any wider than a 5mm spacer without having a hub-centric, which means you kind of got to jump to a 12mm at that point. So that's why I won't really have anything between 5 and 12, so jump into the 12s. Donnie's behind the camera right now learning. Apparently he didn't know why we jumped from 5 to 12.
What's your guess for the best one?
It might be 15-15, it might be 18-15, but that might be a little bit too much poke. We'll find out. Oh yeah, now we're getting somewhere. It's close in the rear, still more in the front. Let's go 15-15. I think I may want the 15 in the rear. We're gonna find out, maybe a little too pokey. Definitely at least a 15 in the front, maybe going 18 in the front. To me, I think that rear is right about where I want it. I might go back into a 12. Both front and rear, clearly the front and rear need a stagger. Rear needs just a little bit less if you want to make them even front to rear. Rear's just a little bit pokey. If you had a track setup with a little bit of negative camber, you would definitely want a 15. And as this thing gets lowered, which more to come, we're going to be lowering this thing soon, we'll be adjusting our spacer options at that time. I don't even know that I need to do a, well, we'll go ahead and do 18 rear, just see what it looks like. How pokey does it get? Yeah, the rear's that's a little too pokey for me, but maybe for some people, the front seems just about right to me. So it seems like the stagger is going to be either 18-15 or 15-12. I'm not sure where I'm going to land yet, but I do know I'm going to throw a 20 on there just to look at it. So, these are going to be not the right fit for this setup, but if your car is lowered, you have more negative camber, possibly 20 could actually be the right fit for you. We're just going to see what this looks like. Yeah, we're a little too fat. I actually don't totally hate the front. Did I put the right one on the front? Yeah, I did. All right, well, clearly we got a ton of poke in the rear, a little poke in the front. I'm a little torn on where I want to land. I'm thinking either a 15 front, 12 rear, or an 18 front, 12 rear. I think I'm gonna go 15 front, 12 rear, and go ahead and swap that out as our final fitment, but 18 front, 15 rear would probably be a good aggressive fitment. Some people may want a little bit different, but You know, we've got some different angles and whatnot for you to see so that you can check it out and choose which option you want for your car. Someone could convince me to go wider on the front, but I think that 1512 looks pretty good. Now, we've only done this on one side for the test. Looking at the stock, that is a massive way to improve the look of your car. Holy cow, the car looks so much better. I mean, it just looks sucked in and almost anemic with the stock offset of these things. Yeah, that's a solid improvement. Done with the G82. It's actually on the lift now, getting some MCS installed, so looking forward to getting that done and look for more information on that project soon. Little iPhone update as we are working on getting MCS on this G82 from the spacer stuff. We got a little more camber in this thing now and lower, and look at how terribly sucked in that thing is. We put 20 mil spacers over on this side on the front, and still I would almost want more. So pretty wild. Once you once you lower this thing, add a little camber, it definitely wants some more. And then on the rear, we put an 18 back here, and probably can still go a touch more, but this is where we'll land. This side in the rear with no spacer. Look at all that gap. But back to spacers for this G01 X3. I'm not even gonna mess with the 5 mils because if you look at this thing, these wheels are pretty sucked in, and the 5 mils aren't really gonna put a dent in the in spacing these babies out to get flush with the body. So we'll start with the 12s. If I were to venture a guess, I'm gonna say 18 mils are gonna land on this thing. But let's dive in and see where we get. Once? What, did it happen on another car?
Yeah, on this car.
All right, so I guess the car thought that I was trying to steal it or do something. I wasn't. Moving on. All right, we're definitely looking way better. Man, the rear looks a bunch better. Front is probably gonna be staggered to have more spacer than the rear from what I'm seeing. I'm still liking my initial guess of 18. Let's go to 15, see what that looks like. And that 15 in the rear is looking pretty good. I'm curious if an 18 is gonna have a little poke. Right now, 15's feeling right. I still want more in the front, so at least an 18 in the front to me. But I think this is heading in the right direction. What did I say to start with? Was my guesstimation 18, 15? A little off. I'm gonna go a little bit more than that, I think. I think it's gonna be 2018.
What are you trying to do?
I'm trying to make my wife's car look awesome. So what
application? Like, what are you trying to?
Well, I mean,
trying to take photos of the car?
Yeah, we're not taking the X3 to the track, but we're trying to make it look spicy.
Low angles are really good.
I'm not talking about angles of shots. I'm talking about how does the car look?
Oh.
With the spacers on this side. I got no spacers on the other side.
Oh, okay.
Now he gets it. Now he gets it.
You could fit a little more, but would you not?
That's where I'm at right now. I think I like where the rear is. I think the front, I could use a couple more mil.
Front maybe could use a little more, but it's better than the other side for sure.
So this is 18, 18.
18s, really?
I'm thinking about going back to a 15 on this side and then putting the 20 up front.
It looks, yeah, side to side comparison.
It's crazy. It looks terrible over there. I think I'm gonna leave the rear. All right, we're gonna throw 20s on both front and rear, see where it looks, but I think this is gonna end up being 20 front, 18 rear. Come back, come back. That's a lot of spacer, so just wanted to check tire clearance to the fender liner as well because I want to make sure we're not going to have any rubbing issues. This is 20 front and rear. I think the front is just right. Yeah, I'm gonna take the rear back in a little bit. I think it pokes just a little bit more than the front. So I'm gonna throw that 18 mil back on the rear and call this a 20 front, 18 rear for my preferred setup. Pretty simple, just a couple of spacers, making the look of this thing change drastically. Like I said, I ended up with 20 front, 18 rear for this car. Some people might want like 15-15 or maybe even 15-12, somewhere in that range. I went a little bit more aggressive on this just because that's the kind of look I like. This is my wife's car, so I could play with it a little bit too. But anyways, loving this. Gonna knock out the other side now that I know what size I want. And any questions about wheel spacer fitment for your G01, G82, any BMW, we've got a range for all of them. Give us a call.
Ready to go? Should be an awesome race weekend. We are ready to kill it this year. It's going to be a wild ride.